Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'd like to go over my top 24 films of all time. Hey, welcome back. As I said, I'd like to go over my top 24 films of all time. Now, these are my personal top favorite movies ever, and I tried to make a top 10 list and realized that is a very hard thing to do. And so I kind of went through and I just kept picking, movie after movie, and eventually I came up with 24. I figured right at the very beginning of the year, it might be nice to, make this video. Just kind of going over my personal favorite films ever made. They are in order, but like the order of them could change in a week, could change tomorrow. But yeah, I'm just going to kind of go through them, and then I'm just going to kind of like explain a very small amount of the reason why I chose them. So I guess without further ado, let's just jump right into it. So starting off at number 24, I have here Mad Max Fury Road. As I went through and tried to pick out these movies that were I would consider to be my favorite movies of all time, I kind of kept running into like, well, have I seen the movie more than once? Have I, watched it several times? Is this something that I think about often? If I am looking for movie recommendations, is this something that I would recommend to somebody? And stuff like that. And so I felt that Mad Max Fury Road, it fit my criteria for my top 24 movies. I've seen this movie several times, and I love everything about this movie. I think it's one of those just like, just from start to finish, it's very engaging and just a very fun movie. You didn't really need to see the first 3 Mad Max movies to understand the motivations of the characters in this one, or just, in general, just like the story of this movie. And so I felt like this was a breath of fresh air with movies when this came out in, what was that, 2016, I think 2016. I could be mistaken on that. But whenever this came out, it just felt like a breath of fresh air of like practical effects and just an interesting story. And so I would say that this is probably I wanted it to be within my movies, but as I go on, I'll kind of explain, why each one is where they are. But that's number 24. Then we got 23. This is The Great Gatsby. And some people might have just saw this movie and just thought, whatever. For whatever reason, this movie really connected with me. I really, really enjoyed it. I've seen it just a bunch. There's times where I'm, just pop it in, and I love the coloring. I love there's times where the camera I think they undercranked the camera at times, if I'm not mistaken, because it feels like the movement feels slightly off. My all-time favorite scene in this movie is when Jay Gatsby is showing off his mansion, and the song Young and Beautiful is playing, and I just think the timing of the music and the visuals and just how it's shot, I just love everything about it. And I really just I've seen this movie so many times, and I really just love it. And I think Leonardo and Tobey Maguire were like a perfect fit together, and so that's number 24. Or nope, 23. Then coming in at number 22, this is one that I don't know if a lot of people saw. I don't know if like a lot of people even know about it. You'll see with a lot of these that probably you wouldn't like expect to be in my top 25 or 24 or whatever. But this is the last 5 years. This is one of those movies that when I first saw it, I loved the concept of it. I loved how, one of their stories is being told kind of in reverse, and one is being told as like the regular like narrative. I love movies that play with timelines. I love that whenever a story is creative like that, and so I felt like even the how this is also a musical. If anyone hasn't seen this, I felt like even the songs like fits the the movie and the flow very nicely. I know it was based off of a play, so that probably has something to do with it. But I really just enjoy this movie. And then I have another musical, which this one's probably a little bigger of a scale, but this is La La Land. And this movie was, I don't know, it was a, when it first, I think I saw it in theaters once, and I bought it when it first came out. I think my favorite actor of all time is Ryan Gosling, so pretty much anything that he is in, I'm a big fan of. I just love this movie. I love like the cinematography, the musical numbers, the like the dance choreography, like pretty much every single scene in this movie I love. And I really think it's just like it reminds me of like old Hollywood movies, which I guess that's what they were kind of going for, but really like that one. This next movie, I'd be surprised if like anyone has even heard of, which obviously people have heard of this, but yeah, this is one of my childhood favorite movies, and so I think that just kind of connects into my adult life, and that is The Pebble and the Penguin. This is from 1995, and so this movie is a year older than me, which is crazy, but which this is then 27 years old. But this movie I absolutely like loved as a kid. I would watch it just over and over. I had the VHS, or I would get the VHS from the library before I was really buying movies, and I rewatched this semi recently with my wife, and there was like a tornado warning or something outside, and so we were like just in the basement watching a movie, but she liked it, and I love this movie. I think it's it's extremely cheesy, it's dated, it's whatever, but I really this will always hold somewhere in my ranking like a special spot, just because it's one of those movies that I can like look back to and just remember being a kid and just really enjoying it. The next one here is probably, I would say, kind of a typical pick, but that is Jaws. And I showed this to my wife for the first time the other night, and I just remembered of how much I loved this movie. The pacing for this movie is just brilliant, and Spielberg, I mean, this was like his, first big hit, because he had, basically two, like, TV movies, basically, like the Sugar Land Express and Duel, and this was like his first big hit, and like you kind of started to see how like Spielberg tells a story, and I really just, if you haven't seen Jaws, then like what are you doing? But I really did enjoy this movie. It's just like the practical effects and just how the story is told is like such a fun like way, and I don't know, I really just like Jaws. The next one here is the movie Clerks. Actually, just last night I watched Clerks 3 for the first time, and I forgot how much I love these characters. This movie to me is always going to be the best Kevin Smith movie, just because, you know, he was like naive, I guess. And I remember when I first saw this, when was it? It was it was a long time ago, but I first watched it and I just loved it. I loved the writing, I loved the story. When I first saw this, I was working at McDonald's, and I just like, there was something that connected of just, working with people, working with public, and it just the weird things to hear and the just nonsense you have to put up with. But this movie, I love the writing. Every now and then when I'm just, in a mood just to like sit and just like kind of I don't want to say turn my brain off, but I don't have to think too hard. I can just pop this in and just like enjoy like the world that these two clerks are in, and just the interactions they have with other characters. Just such a fun movie. And the next one here I have is Atonement, which I really just enjoyed this movie, and I'm not really sure like an exact reason why. It might be because of the long take on the beach, on a Dunkirk beach in the movie, and it feels so like real and grounded, and it just feels like you are one of the characters on that beach just waiting, basically. I think it's so well done, and I love how the story is told. Yeah, I just really like this movie too. And the next one here is the original Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger. This movie is, I would say it's close to a perfect film. It feels so, I don't know, it feels like you are a Marine in the jungle with these guys, and then it just, out of left field, just like an alien attack, and it's brilliant. It really did like just, I don't know, it really subverted your expectations in like such a good way that I wish I could go back and rewatch this movie for the first time, not knowing anything about it, and just know that these soldiers are being hunted by something. Because it was such a just well-paced movie that, I don't know, there's times that I'll just put this on and then just, let it unfold in front of me. And it's such a I don't want to say relaxing, but it's such a fun time, because even though I know what's coming, it still feels such like a surprise when the Predator finally does show up. So this is one that I could watch over and over and just enjoy it every time. Next up is another childhood favorite that is a movie that, when I first saw it, kind of got me into using your imagination, starting to think outside the box a little bit, and just kind of just the world of film. It kind of started opening that door. I saw this when I was very young, and yeah, it's I guess I'll just jump into it. It's Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. This movie, it inspired me to also like be creative, and very, very quick side story, because this video is going to be long. When I was young, my dad worked as a maintenance manager at a printing shop, and so when he would be working on these printing presses, he would bring home the broken parts for me just to play with, create something, make whatever. And so when I was young, I was making flying machines, time machines. I don't even know. Like my biggest ones were always shrink rays. Sorry, which of course was inspired by Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And so that movie really just like, as a kid, it was like mind blowing to me that movie could even be like a thing. And so I wanted so badly as a child for a shrink ray to be a real thing. But I just love that movie, and it will always just be in my top movies. The next one here is kind of an obvious, typical pick, but that is 2001: A Space Odyssey. This movie, I have seen, I'd say 3 or 4 times, maybe more. And I find something new every time I watch it. I am still blown away at this movie, especially when it came out. I can't say anything that has not been said about this movie. Stanley Kubrick is my favorite director of all time, hands down. So he, I would say this is probably, it might be his masterpiece as a director, but I mean, it's hard to pick a masterpiece out of all of his fantastic films. But I mean, when I saw this, I didn't quite get it, and then I went back and rewatched it, and it kind of like clicked. And like every time I watch it now, it's just like I get something more out of it. So, a fantastic movie that I definitely think it should be in everyone's top movies, but it's not everyone's cup of tea. The next one here, getting close to my top 10, is Alien. When I was a kid, I asked my dad what is the scariest movie he ever saw, and he replied he saw Alien in theaters. And he didn't really, I mean, he's definitely not a scary movie person at all. So this was the scariest movie he saw, but there was always this fascination growing up with Alien. I was far too young to see it. I was, I don't know, maybe 10 when I got that information, maybe 12. And of course, being rated R, I was, too young to see it, but there was always this like desire to see Alien. And so I remember the first time when I was at a thrift shop and I came across Alien on VHS, and I asked my mom if I could get it, and she kind of like just like kind of was like, yeah, I guess, like, so I was very happy to actually watch it, and I still have those tapes somewhere in this room. But I just remember sitting there and watching it, and like finally getting to experience it, and just being kind of blown away at like the practical effects and just the pacing of the story. And I don't know, I've gotten several debates with my friend over if Alien or Aliens is better. He personally thinks Aliens is better. I think I like Alien, but maybe I'll have to have him on here to discuss like Aliens kind of which one's better, and he doesn't think this is a good movie. I love this movie, and so yeah. The next one this is another like kind of a typical pick, which I have this on 4K, but I only have it in like a box set, I guess. But so I have the DVD here, but that's Jurassic Park. This is another one that when I first saw it as a kid, I was just like very like interested in how they did it. Very interested in like the practical effects, the the mixture of practical and like computer effects, but it just in general too, it just like felt like a bigger, like a larger than life movie, that it like this is something special that I'm seeing. And I even now when I watch it, I still like get that same feeling of like, how is this, like this feels like, I don't know, it feels not like a movie. It feels like this is a look into a different like an alternate dimension where they were able to create dinosaurs. And so this will always be the best Jurassic Park, no matter how much they try with remakes and stuff. And I don't know why they even bother trying to reboot the series, because this is a very close to a perfect film. But I mean, especially with John Williams' score, it just feels so like, I don't know, it's like bursting with like energy as a movie. And coming in at number 11 is a movie that was very special to me at the time when it came out, and still is very special to me. But back in 2006, this was like, the movie to see. And that is Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. When this came out, I want to say I was in like 4th grade. I could be mistaken on that. Maybe 3rd grade. I don't know. I was in elementary school at some point. And when this came out, I was so excited. Because I was a big fan of the original trilogy and the 2 prequel movies. And so, like, by the time when this rolled out, I mean, everything was Star Wars. I mean, every pop label, every chip bag, every candy wrapper, every article of clothing, pretty much when you walked into Walmart, every single piece of merchandise was just Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, and I loved it. And so for a while, I was like collecting everything. I was collecting pop cans and candy wrappers and cereal boxes and just pretty much everything. Getting cereal that I didn't even like solely to get the box. I loved this movie. I still love it. I think this is like one of the... I definitely think this is the strongest prequel movie. It's just such a satisfying like conclusion to the prequels, and kind of like that bridge that we needed between the first 2 prequel movies and like episode 4, and how things kind of like shifted. And I can't say enough good things about it. Some of the dialogue's rough, some of the acting's rough, but it just came out, for me at least, this came out at the right time where I was a kid, and I remember sitting in the theater watching it. It was the only original Star Wars movie that I ever saw in theaters, and so it really just, I don't know, I was really excited just to sit there. And even when it came out on DVD, I remember going to Walmart and like getting it and just being so excited, and as soon as I got home, I watched it again, and so... this movie will always hold a special spot in my heart. And on to my top 10 favorite films of all time. This was a hard pick, especially the previous, films. I didn't know how to put them in order. And so, like I said, these might change. My top 5 have been pretty much my top 5 forever, but I might switch things around in the future. And I don't know how that's going to work, but these ones I felt have had a significant impact on my life. And so I just, I figured I would want these to be my top 10s. But starting off at number 10, it is Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. I can't tell you how many times I've seen this movie. This is another one. I mean, all of Kubrick's movies feel like this. When you watch them multiple times, you get something different out of them each time. I love this movie. I think it is just such a fascinating movie. I think it's like the acting in it, the story. I love movies that kind of like put characters in like an isolating situation. I mean, some of my favorite situations would be like on a cruise ship, if the cruise ship was like, stuck somewhere, or on an island. Like one of my favorite shows growing up was Lost. That was like, I loved the concept of that. And so the idea of like characters kind of being stuck in this hotel with no one around, it was just such an interesting idea for me, or to me. And this movie is just, it's such a fun, like, just wild ride. This is another one that for the longest time I wasn't allowed watching growing up, and eventually I was able to, grab a DVD copy of it and so I could watch it, and I love this movie. But this is one that I would try to watch every Halloween too, but I don't know. Now it's just kind of like watch it when I really want to, but... And then at number 9, this is a movie that me and my friends would watch, and then we would try to, film a little bit, like recreate it, make like a little like spin-off story or whatever. And just all in all, I think this was like a movie that inspired a lot of people to make short films or like homemade movies, or just like in general, just enjoy like the process of filmmaking. And that is Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. This was a movie that I think this might be my favorite Spielberg movie. It's a movie that's, whenever I do watch it, it's like watching it for the first time. It's such a fun movie. Harrison Ford played Indiana Jones like perfectly, and I like want more of this like world, but at the same time I don't, because like this to me is like such a perfect movie. It's like such a like well-paced, like fantastic story, and I love just like, I don't know. I remember I saw this with a live orchestra playing along with it. John Williams's like music is really like one of the best things to ever happen to like movies in general. Yeah, I think it was just such a fun movie, and I really can't say anything like bad about this movie. It's just such a great movie, and I really like look forward, like I love showing that movie to people, especially if they haven't seen it before. And then kind of going along the same lines of like movies that inspired people to make stuff or like, you know, create. But this is, I wish I had this as I don't think they even make them in individual like Blu-rays or 4Ks, or they have the 4K set, but I have the Blu-ray Steelbook here of the Back to the Future trilogy. And I'm going to say the first Back to the Future movie out of this trilogy is going to be number 8, I think. Yeah. The first Back to the Future movie is, in my opinion, a perfect film. The pacing is absolutely perfect. There is, if it pops on like in the background or something at a friend's house, like I am just glued to the TV because it's so just well done. I think I heard it in a podcast at some point in life that the last, you know, the last act of the movie basically, where, you know, Marty is trying to get in the time machine and it's like cutting it down, like Doc Brown's up there connecting the wires and stuff. It's like such a perfectly timed scene that like you're on the edge of your seat, even if it's the 100th time you've seen it. And I feel that exact same way of like, even as it being like the last act of the movie, and I've seen it like so many times, I know what's going to happen. I love it. I just feel like you're still curious if he's going to make it or not. And I think that's what really like a well-paced movie does, is like engages with the audience regardless if it's the first time you've seen it or the 100th time you've seen it. And yeah, I love this movie. When I was younger, my dad, he had a junk car, kind of in the back of our yard, and it was like a little, it was an older like Porsche just kind of sitting under a tarp and stuff. And so, I mean, it was a piece of junk, but when I was younger, I loved the concept of Back to the Future, that I like went out there and I was like taping wires to the side of it and, you know, made a little like hook out of like a coat hanger or something. And I was trying to make a, you know, DeLorean. And so, yeah, that was it's a movie that, as somebody like me who just was constantly making stuff, I just really, really, just really enjoyed it. And the next one here is 500 Days of Summer. Now, this might be just like a weird pick, I guess, for my top 10, but I saw this movie at like the perfect time in my life. At the time I was going through kind of like a breakup situation, and so this movie just like really connected with me, of just like his story, and just the more I analyzed the film, I just really, really enjoyed it. Especially the scene where it's the expectations versus reality. I think that's just such a wonderful scene that I have watched far too many times, of just analyzing and just like, I don't know, piecing together that, they're just like, even down to their costume design. I really found interesting of how even like their costumes are different, and like they just don't match. And but I really do think that it's a trap that a lot of guys fall into, where it's kind of have that like idea of what they like are looking for in a girl, and they might like overlook like flaws within that person. And like, I guess women can feel the same way, but I'm only speaking from experience. But I think that's that movie captures that so well, of just of like having this idea of somebody, and like kind of blocking out the like that it's clearly not going to work, but you just, because you want it to be something so badly. But I think the movie captures that so well. But I love that movie. And then, speaking of romantic movies, my number, what is this? 6? My number 6 pick is Annie Hall by Woody Allen. This movie, like, it won Best Picture in 1977. There's parts of the movie that I just really, I don't know, like, what it is about it, and I can't really quite, like, put my finger on why I really enjoy this movie, but I think it's, like, how he kind of breaks the fourth wall several times throughout the movie, and whether that's, like, talking directly to the camera or talking to, like, another character that would have no insight on the situation, but they just know all this stuff. I just like, I think it's just such a wonderful film. I need to get a Blu-ray copy of it, but it's I don't know, it just feels like a real story. But I did enjoy that. And coming in at number 5 is a movie that probably not many people have seen or even heard of, but I always try to recommend it to people, because this is, I mean, it's my 5th favorite movie of all time, and that is Comet. I wish people knew about this movie more. I love this movie. When I first watched it, I was working at a video store, and my boss, she was like, "Hey, I know you kind of like romance-y movies, like that are kind of different, and I think you should check this out." And she had a copy, and she loaned it to me, and so that night I popped it in and watched it, and immediately when it was over, I went back to the menu and hit play again. I watched it through twice, like again. And I'm pretty sure that's the only time I've ever done that, where I watched a movie just back to back, like the same movie, because it is such a interesting story, and it's told in a way that, like, it plays around with time, like I was saying earlier. Just I love movies that play around with, like, the timeline of things. And Justin Long, which, I mean, people know him, he's in several things, but the cinematography, the lighting, the music, the way the story is told, everything about this film is so great. Go check it out if you have not seen it. I would highly recommend it. It might not be for you, but I really just enjoyed it. I think it's just like such a movie that, like, something that I would want to make. So definitely go check out Comet. Coming in at number 4, this is a movie that I've seen, I don't know, I've lost track of how many times I've seen it, but I'm excited because Kino Lorber recently released a 4K of it, so I recently got that, but that is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and this movie is just... It does all the things I love about romance movies, where it plays around with time, and it's not necessarily like a happy ending. The last scene, where it's like the last little bit of memory with, like, the Meet Me in Montauk scene, where where Joel is like, when Joel first met Clementine on the beach and stuff, when the house is kind of like falling apart and stuff, that whole sequence, from when it starts to when he wakes up that morning is absolutely one of my favorite scenes of all time. I just think it's such a, like, I don't know what the right word is. It feels so just like, I don't know, like there's so much weight to it, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense, but I love this movie. I've watched it so many times. I've showed it to everyone I know. I can't say enough good things about it. I think it's a underrated movie. I mean, probably unlikely, but these two movies in the Criterion Collection would be fantastic. We'll see if that happens or not. I don't know. Probably not. But I am excited that this finally got a 4K release. But this is a very underrated Jim Carrey movie. It might be because of the marketing that they had on it, where it was advertised kind of like a goofy rom-com like type of movie, and it's supposed to be funny, and it's not funny at all. I mean, it is funny at times, but it's not a funny movie. And I mean, if you've never seen the trailer, if you've seen the movie but you haven't seen the trailer, go watch the trailer. It's definitely like it doesn't fit the tone at all of what the movie is, but yeah, I love Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Coming in at number 3, this is a movie that there was a time in my life where I would basically drive around at night a lot, and I would put the soundtrack onto this movie just over and over, and I know a lot of people love this movie, but I really like it, and but that is Drive. This movie is just, I felt like, I don't know, I connected with the character so well, and I know a lot of people might say that, but I love the story that Drive is, like what the story of Drive. This is by far my favorite Ryan Gosling performance. It is just such a, I don't know, it's such a brilliant movie. It just, I know it's kind of based off of The Driver, which is, I should have grabbed that movie. It's somewhere on that wall. I don't know what year that came out. Where it's a similar, Driver doesn't have a name, kind of very quiet, very cool and collected, and just, is just really good at driving. And so I know that character, technically the character isn't original, but giving the twist of the neon and just listening to pop music and stuff throughout it, from the 80s, it felt so I don't know, unique in that way. So this is what introduced me to Nicholas Winding Refn, who now is probably, I'd say he's one of my favorite directors. Not high up on my list, but he's on the list of favorite directors. But yeah, Drive is a fantastic film. Coming in at number 2 is Star Wars: A New Hope. This movie was, I mean, obviously everyone's seen it. If you haven't seen it, what are you doing? This is just a movie that really inspired me to I don't know, just dive deeper into movies and just see what they really have to offer. For the longest time, I never watched Star Wars growing up, until my uncle showed me Star Wars Episode 1, and that was the first Star Wars movie I ever saw. And so after watching Episode 1, I was like, I have to know more about Star Wars. And when I came to this one, because I found out that this was the first one released, I was just blown away. Especially when it, the older I get and, just realizing, when it was made and stuff, of just, the practical effects, it just, it feels like it is made, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It feels like in a different world. And I think the how George Lucas was like kind of naive to a lot of things when he was making it, I think that played in his favor. And it just, I mean, I know it's technically based off of other movies, but it feels like, I mean, I know it's technically like, you know, a Western in space, or, and so, but it feels like it's such an original idea. And I think it definitely deserves all of the hype that it's gotten over the years. But that's a nice segue into my number one pick of all time. This is a movie that has stayed my number one pick throughout a very, very, very long time. Pretty much since I got really into movies, it's always been at number one, and I don't ever see it changing. But by far, my favorite movie of all time is Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back. This is, in my opinion, this is a perfect film. I have nothing wrong with this movie. Every single time I watch it, I am 100% engaged. I love everything about it. I love that it ends on kind of a cliffhanger note. It's more of a sad note, which is insane when it first came out, like thinking back of just like, that was an insane move on their end. And I miss how movies like this was like, I wish that movies today were made like this, where, you know, it wasn't like, oh, you know, we're going to make this movie and then next year we're going to make another one, or there's going to be all this, you know, press about what's happening with the movie. And I wish that more movies were like Episode 5, where, I don't know, it just felt, I don't know, I have a hard time putting into words how much I actually like this movie. It's a perfect film, and if you haven't seen episode like Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, then I really don't know what you're doing. But I mean, even growing up, one of my like first Lego kits ever was the X-Wing landing on Dagobah with like Yoda's hut and stuff, and that was like one of my favorite things I ever bought when I was a kid. And so it was just everything. I just felt like out of all the Star Wars movies, it told the strongest story. It kind of took everything that, like the groundwork that was laid in Episode 4, and it took all of it and just built on it in such a powerful way. And I think, like, even being as old as it is, I really think that like the practical effects all hold up so well. And it looks so, like, it looks almost better than anything that comes out today in, like, CGI. And, yeah, I love that movie. And, yeah, I think that's all I want to say. But thank you guys so much for sticking with this. I know it's kind of a longer video. It's going to be, like, 40 minutes. Yikes. But, yeah, thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next video. Yeah, thank you for the support so far on the channel. That's been fantastic. And I'm hoping to make more videos here soon. My work schedule kind of freed up a little bit here, so I should have some free time to make some more videos. But let me know in the comments down below what if you agree with my top 24, I guess. Sorry, it's 24, but if you agree with my top 24, if you disagree, if you think like there's other movies that I would like based on my picks, please leave those like suggestions down there. And just remember that this is my personal opinion. Obviously, your top 24 is going to look very different than my top 24. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.